Hello and welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be going through system prompts. If you don't know what they are, don't worry. I can tell you they're going to change the way that you use ChatGPT and how you produce AI content. System prompts are pretty much the secret sauce that makes ChatGPT what it is today. If you don't know how to use it, don't worry. I'll show you how to use it and talk you through exactly what it is. Before we go ahead with that, please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. I do videos like this all the time that help you use ChatGPT and get the best out of it for your use case. If you have any questions, drop a comment down below. And if you like the video, please drop a like as well and share it with people who might want to see this video as well. So without any further ado, let's get started. So to start off with, what is a system prompt? Now a system prompt can be described as a master command. This is the main thing that ChatGPT or GPT-4 will consider when they are deciding what they're going to give as the output to you. So if you send a request over to ChatGPT, two things will be sent. The thing that you know is sent is on the screen in front of you, the conversation you've had. It will go back as far as it can and it will send those things over to the AI so it understands the context of the conversation. But alongside that, you will also send it over the system prompt. Now, you can't change the system prompt within ChatGPT. OpenAI have set that out and they've decided to send over the same system prompt with every single message that goes across to the AI. But when you use your own version of ChatGPT, which you can create in the Playground, the one you can create with an API, well, that allows you to choose what your system prompt is. So when you actually send over any messages, not only will you send over to ChatGPT the exact messages you've sent in the conversation, the previous context of that conversation, you will also send your system prompt. And that system prompt will have a massive impact on the output you get. Sam Altman, he said that the system prompt gets the biggest priority. That is what the AI is thinking about when it decides what it is meant to say. That's like the AI's personality, and you're choosing what the personality will be. So OpenAI have locked down the option to be able to use the ChatGPT system prompt on ChatGPT itself, but you can use it by going to the Playground. If you haven't signed up to the OpenAI Playground, which is their API version, then you want to sign up to it so you can start using it. When you first sign up, you won't have access to ChatGPT and you won't have access to GPT-4. You'll need to join the waitlist. I will drop links down below to sign up to the Playground, to sign up to the waitlist for ChatGPT, and sign up to the waitlist for GPT-4 if you don't have access to them already. Once you've got those, if you go to the Playground, what you're able to do is on the right, change from complete over to chat. Now, this basically is the back end of ChatGPT. This will allow you to change over a lot of things that OpenAI don't let you change on ChatGPT itself. Firstly, you can switch between GPT 3.5 and GPT 4. You can then up or down the temperature. So the temperature is basically like a creativity slider. It will allow it to give a more creative output and use different words. The higher the value, the lower the value is, the lower amount of words it can choose from. If you want a full explanation of what that is, please watch the video on how ChatGPT really works, and that will give you a full understanding of what the temperature slider is doing. Now, the maximum length will let you to kind of restrict how long the outputs will be. Now, ChatGPT, as you'll know from using it on the normal ChatGPT version, will sometimes cut out halfway through a sentence. So lowering that slider won't mean the outputs will be shorter. What it will just mean is that it might cut off halfway through. And upping the value won't mean that you'll always get longer values. It will always stop at the most appropriate point. The top P value here, this one, you don't want to touch this if you're changing the temperature, but it can restrict the kind of amount of words that it can choose from when it's coming up with the outputs. If you're updating the temperature, don't update the top P. If you're updating the top P, don't update the temperature. Now, the frequency and presence penalties are basically going to restrict the amount of times that a word can be used in the output. The frequency penalty will only stop the frequency if it is following further on. So it kind of takes into account the amount of times in one go that it has said the same word. So this can start to restrict the possibility of it just repeating the same word over and over again. Now, the presence penalty is different. What this will do is if a word's been used once in the text already, it will restrict the chance of it use that word again somewhere throughout the output. So if you're getting problems where the same words are being used very close together, so in the same paragraph, then the frequency penalty is where you want to change. And the higher that is, the less likely that is to happen. If you really wanted to use different words all the way through the content, then you want to up the presence penalty, because that will mean that it's less likely to use the same words no matter how recently they were used in the output. Now, the main thing we're here to look at is the system prompt. So the basic system prompt here is you are a helpful assistant. So let's give it a try. But as we can see, this is giving the kind of output that you would expect ChatGPT to give you. Just giving a very generic output. It's not really doing anything personalized for me. But if we go and change the system prompt, there's a very basic system prompt, and what I'm going to do here is send it again, and you can see it is now giving an output that's exactly based on football coaching. Now, no matter how long this conversation goes on, it's going to continue to go back to football coaching. So let's put a second option in here. So again, the next one here, it's going straight back to football coaching. Now, I haven't wrote in any of the user messages anything about football coaching, but no matter how long I go along the conversation with it, or no matter what I put in there, it's always going to come back to football coaching. If I was to then change that, so we will wipe this conversation off and we'll go right back to the beginning. And now we'll change this over to gaming streamer. So we submit that off. And what's it going to do now? It's going to go straight back to gaming streaming. So this system prompt is going to really change the way that you use ChatGPT. You won't have to worry about having a conversation with ChatGPT where you have to tell it that it is a assistant for a gaming streamer, assistant for a YouTuber, assistant for a football expert. You won't have to tell it those things. All you have to do is put in the system prompt what it is and what it isn't. Now, that's a very basic system prompt. You can do a much more elaborate one with a lot of words that can really change the way you use it. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go and I'm going to get something I created earlier. And this is a more elaborate prompt. And what it's going to allow you to do is build something that is very different from ChatGPT. Give me 2 minutes. I'll come back and I'll show you. Really quickly, we will get back to that in a second, but I just want to talk about my AI consultant services. Now, I usually work with businesses, but I want to help as many people as possible. And the best way for me to do that is set up a Patreon. It's open now for you to sign up if you want help with your AI. You can ask me about prompts, you can ask me about AI, you can ask me about anything you want to ask me about, and I will be offering one-to-one coaching, videos that you won't get anywhere else, and some prompts that you'll be able to use directly from my Patreon. So if you need help with that, go over, support me. I really appreciate it. But now let's get back to the video. So this is a much more elaborate system prompt. It's much longer. And what I've done in here is something a little bit different to what most people would consider doing. Most people would use a system prompt that's quite generic. And we'll just talk about the kind of output that they want. What I've done here is I've come up with a novel writer system prompt. And I haven't just come up with one that will write random novels. I've come up with one that will allow me to write my novel that I want to write. Now, this is just an example. I'm not going to write a novel with ChatGPT. But if you think about this, what I'm then able to do is send over a prompt which makes sure this bot will only ever write me novels based on limitless streams, the novel I want to write about. And that means whatever I put in here, it's going to relate it back to that novel. So I can ask it to write a scene, and it will write a scene based on that novel. I can ask it to come up with some ideas for scenes, and it will come up with ideas for scenes. I can ask it to outline the entire story, and it will outline the entire story based on that. Now, what I could do in here again is I could fill that with almost everything that I'd want to write about, like the overall synopsis of the out of the first scene, and then I could use the prompts on here. So I could really drill it down to just write about one certain thing, and then allow the conversation I have with it to develop that one certain thing. But I'm going to do things here. Firstly, I'm going to put in here an outline of the first scene. And what I will do is in the comments below, I will put the actual prompts that I used for it so you can use it yourself. Now what it's going to do is I will send it off on here and it will start writing the scene. Now I've put quite a short maximum length, so what I will quickly do in a minute is I will extend that and we'll do it again. But as you can see, what it's done is it's wrote the first scene. And it's wrote it based upon the story, which is on the system prompt, and on the information I've given here. So what I will quickly do is I will now get rid of that and I will add a longer maximum length. I will increase the temperature a little bit and then we'll go again. And here we go. Now we've got a completely different output. Now what this is doing is it's writing a scene based on that system prompt. And think about what you can do if you were to continue with this. You could literally just give it every single scene you want to write, and within about 10 minutes, 20 minutes, possibly a little bit longer, you could have an entire novel which is based upon this story. And that's going to really help you because if you're a novel writer or you're a book writer, you can then take that and you can start to build on that first draft and turn it into the novel that you want without having a blank page to look at. But there's so many different things you can do. Now, let's just quickly get rid of this and get rid of this. And now what we'll do is we'll say, and now what it's doing is it is writing the opening scenes. Now this here is very similar. Now here's an area where you sometimes need to have a think about what ChatGPT is thinking about with all of its training. So if I'm thinking about football as being British football, I'm thinking about football as being soccer. But this is talking about football as football. So we can then, doesn't really matter, depends on what you want. Some people would want the American football, some people want soccer. But if we drop this off here and we ask it, instead of currently opening scenes of the story, please outline what the first act. There we go. What it's doing here is it's now outlining the first act of it. And then what you could then do is build upon this and ask it to write just certain bits of it. So this is something you can use for so many different purposes. You could then link this over with the Aleph Alpha model that I showed you last week, where you're able to get factual information, entirely factual information based upon a document that you've got. And then what you could do with the system prompt is when you get that factual information, you could pop that into the system prompt. And then what you could do is ask it to write different parts of the blog post for you based on that information. And no matter how far down the conversation you get, it will always relate back to the information you've pulled that's factual from that system prompt. You can then create a bot here that you can use as much as you like that will always relate things back to the information that you want it to use. This completely changes the way that you can use AI, because when you are writing just into a chat screen or you're just writing into the complete model of GPT-3, all you are doing is giving it the information for around 2,000 tokens or possibly a little bit more if you're using GPT-4, which means that you're going to lose those instructions the longer that you go on with your conversation, the longer that you go on with creating that content. This system prompt is sent with every single message you send. So if I get 20, 30, 40 messages down and I've used so many tokens that it can't go all the way back, it will always relate straight back to that system prompt. And that is game changing. And that is the video. Thank you so much for watching today. I hope this has helped you. If it has, please like and please drop a comment down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you want some more help, then you know my Patreon is open. head over there and I look forward to helping you with AI and your prompts.